Welcome, everybody, to Season 2 of The Director's Garage. I am your host and resident idiot, Michael. Now, first of all, if you don't follow my live stream, and why would you? We've moved. The home office is now a mile or so from the old place, and I'm kind of settling into the new digs here. I have some acoustic treatment on the walls and some more on the way to take some of the bass bloom out of my voice, because no one should ever really bloom, should they?
Hey!
Blossom, maybe. But anyway, the gear is the same, but it's all been kind of rearranged, and we've got a much bigger monitor back there, and wait for it, levels. Yes, we've leveled up with two huge 92-inch edit desks with monitor bridges for just a few $100. It was a total score. We have tons of desk space now, and the moldy old pine desktop is probably floating in the Pacific right about now. I'll give you a little tour, virtual tour of the new digs, or part of it. Everything is kind of laid out nicely right now. I still may rearrange a few things. I'm not sure the reel-to-reel is quite in the right spot yet. Now, a few of the things are the same. My terrible sense of humor and sound effects, the production value, is annoying as ever. And, of course, my RCA77DX made the journey as well. I've grown fond of this thing, and I wouldn't want to do a Director's Garage show without it. The monitors have been neatly tucked away under this front monitor bridge. It's really cool. It's like the Star Trek Enterprise up here or something. Plenty of room here to show off new gear. And speaking of that, well, folks, the incessant, reckless spending has been curbed, at least for a while. We have a lot more house to pay for, and that means the audio budget, it's getting a little tighter around here. Facts of life, folks. Believe me, I've been jonesing for the recent DCS clocks that have come up on the resale market. Just can't do it right now. But if you're in the market for a Susvara with a tiny, and I mean tiny little scratch on one cup, and several brand new ear pads and a custom cable, no less, hit me up at thedirectorsgarage@gmail.com. Always looking to make a deal, folks. Always looking to make a deal. Okay, now to launch Season 2, Episode 1, we're going to focus on electrostatics. Now, for the past several months, I have been lucky enough to have two killer Energizers in-house. The Headamp Blue Hawaii, a gorgeous tube Energizer in anodized blue aluminum, and this Mjolnir KGSSHV Carbon CC, or as I refer to it, the Alphabet Amp. And today we're going to do an old-fashioned shootout. I'm going to talk about the differences I've noticed between these two terrific, and I mean world-class terrific Energizers, and their similarities too. So let's get it on! All right, first up, let's talk about some ergos. Now, the Blue Hawaii is the stepped attenuator version, which is to say the volume pot clicks as you give it the beans. The progressive attenuator without the clicks is a $1,000 upgrade on this amp. Now, I bought this one used, and frankly, it's terrific. I like that this amp can drive two electrostatic ear speakers at once. That will come in handy when we look at sound and comparisons, and it takes both balanced and unbalanced inputs selectable with this nifty if basic switch. The amp is divided into two sections, a power supply and the Energizer itself, with a thick multi-pin cable connecting the two. Now, it's heavy, but once you gander at the tubes glowing in low light, you appreciate how special this design is. This thing's gorgeous, folks, and a joy to listen to. Now, the challenger in this shootout is the Mjolnir Alphabet Amp. This is a one-piece solid-state design. I talked about it in the unboxing video. Not nearly as heavy as the BHSE, though not exactly light either. It's a sleek design with a single power button that glows with a ring of life. And outputs to drive two electrostatic ear speakers as well. It runs balanced only. RCA cables need not apply. And this does have the non-stepped progressive attenuator. This is a big deal among electrostatic folks. I don't really care. But it's a premium add-on from Mjolnir. of these amps will cost you a kidney. They ain't cheap, even on the used market. New, we're talking close to 5 figures, and on the used market, these things are going to set you back around $5K a piece. Now, that hurts, but you get what you pay for. 2 extremely well-engineered products with the user in mind. Top-grade sound. But which sounds better? Well, we're going to get into that. We're going to dive into the sound next. Now, I'm going to be frank up front. Many of the sound properties are nearly indistinguishable between these two products. This stands to reason. They share some of the same design from electrostatic guru Kevin Gilmore, the KG and the KGSSHV. But there are a few subtle differences. Imaging, nearly identical on both. It's the soundstage, though, where the Blue Hawaii opens up, and the Mjolnir has kind of a less wide presentation. But the Alphabet amp does a better job with dynamics and impact, where the Blue Hawaii falls a little short. There's a lot of give and take on both of these. These are both exquisitely detailed products. Paired with high-end electrostatic ear speakers, you'd be hard to tell them apart in the detail department. Speed is definitely not an issue here. But the Mjolnir's ace in the hole is power. A lot more power than the BHSE, and this we'll see in sound structure, bass, mids, and treble in that order. The Alphabet amp has some advantages. And I'm starting with the bass, and the Mjolnir really has an edge here. The bass is driving even at nominal levels, whereas the Blue Hawaii really doesn't start giving you decent bass until you're at or near the top of the volume range. The Alphabet amp has it down low where it counts, and for me, this is a major advantage to my way of thinking or listening or whatever. Now, the mids are closer in quality between the two, but this is where I give the BHSE major props for its terrific soundstage. It is really most notable through this mid-range. Now, the Mjolnir just feels like everything in the mids is getting jammed through with force and dynamics. It's very lively. As we jump to the treble, it's all about the Mjolnir's super detailed approach compared to the BHSE's openness and airiness up top. Both are stellar, period. But it's all about the music in the end, isn't it? Yeah, the music section. I started this journey on the Blue Hawaii first and Steely Dan's Gaucho. Now, on Hey 19, my first impression was how warm the X9000 sounded. Was it my imagination? I don't remember the Mjolnir playing this warm on the X9000. Sonically, pure spectacle. Imaging is terrific. Keep in mind, I've never paired the X9000 with the Blue Hawaii before this shootout. This was my maiden voyage, and it impressed me out of the gate. Now, moving the X9000 over to the Mjolnir, the first thing I noted is more power. The Mjolnir just has more horses under the hood than the head amp. The things are punchier, but not quite as warm. Still that excellent image though, and the bass seems a bit more planted. Now, Hey 19 isn't really the bassiest of tracks, it's pretty tight down low, but both amps are wicked fast speed, not an issue at all. That's more of a difference in the headphone, in the ear speaker, than in the Energizer. But on Steely Dan, I preferred the Blue Hawaii for its warmer presentation, and it seemed a little airier to me. Now, next up, I went to Midnight Oil and their spectacular 1993 album, Earth and Sun and Moon. I listened to the title track and Truganini, two killer tracks at opposite ends of the spectrum. The first, light and delightful, and the next, dark and edgy with a solid bottom end. Now, I was struck that the X9000 really didn't fill in the bottom ends of these songs on the Blue Hawaii pairing. Still, terrific songs, but stuck in that mid and upper bass range tonally. Though very pleasing, it was just missing something down low. Moving back to the Mjolnir, I was hit with a sub that wasn't present on the Blue Hawaii. Not an overwhelming or basshead kind of thing. I just felt that low fill on the bridges that was completely missing on the head amp. Now, I was into this pairing right from the start, but I know that these tracks have dynamics that can really thump, so I moved over to the Carbon with the Blue Hawaii. Yet there is a jump in bass presence on the Carbon that I personally really enjoy. The Carbon kicks lower than the X9000. I'll get into headphone comparisons more when I do the full X9000 review, but as a teaser, yeah, the Carbon does deliver a greater bass punch. The sound is more filled in. So you're not only getting more bass, you're also getting that warmer tone along with it. It's pretty tasty. Boy, then you jump to the Mjolnir and the bass just jumps forward. It leaps forward. Now, neither amp does much for the Carbon's narrower soundstage. Everything's closer than on the X9000, but the image is just as strong, and both amps present excellent images on the Carbon. But I appreciate the bass punch combo of the Mjolnir and the Carbon for Midnight Oil. It's damn near slam. It's kind of slam light, or slight. All right, confession time. Every time I pull out electrostatics, I have this urge to play orchestral, classical, symphonies, you know? So I scratched that itch with Yo-Yo Ma's performance of the Once Upon a Time in America theme. Now, if you're into strings, this is the score. It's very moving on the X9000 and the Blue Hawaii. It's just heavenly. There's texture, there's emotion. It's all there on the Blue Hawaii. Now, something unexpected happened when I moved to the Mjolnir. It does give up some of that ethereal floating of the head amp, but there's more body to the string instruments. So I'm kind of calling this orchestral track a surprising push, each bringing something different to the experience. The Mjolnir is more lifelike, like you're in person. The Blue Hawaii is more delicate. Each work well in their own way. Now next, I went hard at that bass question and pulled out Mickey Hart's mix of Working Man's Dead. Now, this is an album with deep, deep bass, and it's isolated. Starting with the Mjolnir and the X9000, so filled in down low. Digs tremendously deep. Amazing how far electrostatics have developed. Not my Abyss or LCD4 territory, but the presence is there on the X9000 for the first time. Moving back to the Blue Hawaii, and that lower register just drops out. It just dissipates. It's missing sub, and it's a bit disappointing. Now, the mids and treble are right there with the Mjolnir and the Blue Hawaii both. There's a great warm quality to the BHSE, but the oomph is just missing. Then I performed the same audition for the Carbon paired with these two Energizers. Now, the bass is even stronger on the Mjolnir, and I don't have to be blasting the headphone at all to get these things thumping. Moving the Carbon back over to the Blue Hawaii, and the bass actually was better than I expected. Not nearly the roll-off that I heard on the X9000 with the Blue Hawaii. So for the Carbon, I like the Blue Hawaii with the Grateful Dead, but with the Mjolnir, the X9000 took it. What the Blue Hawaii brings to the table is an ethereal, warm quality, an openness that I just don't quite feel on the Mjolnir Alphabet amp. But the Blue Hawaii gives you that liquid, warm, and fuzzy at the expense of power. Like 1/3 of a dial difference in volume level between the Carbon CC and the Mjolnir. And what's particularly rough is that the more power-hungry Audeze Carbon pushes the Blue Hawaii to damn near wide open before the Carbon starts producing that luscious bass. Whereas the bass is delivered with immediate punch and authority out of the Mjolnir, even at the lower volume levels. Now, there were a few surprises. On classical, I felt the Blue Hawaii had an edge. Again, we're talking about natural instruments that don't acoustically touch that sub bass. But nearly every other genre benefits from the Mjolnir's extra punch. And that's a big part of this story as I start to wind this thing down. After doing this shootout, what strikes me first is Wow, am I a lucky guy? I'm sitting here with more than 20 grand in electrostatic ear speakers and energizers. Nothing sounds bad or off. It's about how different the two energizers sound, and in many cases, how similar they sound. Choosing between these two energizers is really an embarrassment of riches. That said, for me, and I have to stress this, for me, my preferences. There was a clear winner of the shootout, and it's going to be the Mjolnir. As much as I appreciate the warmth and spatiality of the Blue Hawaii, the Mjolnir injects bass into this electrostatic equation in a way I've never heard before. And then you add two world-class electrostatic ear speakers into the mix, and the X9000 and the Audeze CRBN, and the ability to deliver the sub at nominal listening levels is far too valuable for me to let the Mjolnir go. And because this is the Director's Garage, shootouts have consequences, and for the purposes of this show, the Blue Hawaii SE will get sold off. I hate to see it go. It's a gorgeous amp in both looks and sound. I just can't keep everything. And I've got to say goodbye occasionally to some stellar gear. And the BHSE is a crazy great energizer. And if I miss it, I can always buy another one if I want. So that's the shootout between the Headamp Blue Hawaii Special Edition and the Mjolnir KGSSHV Carbon CC. Two killer electrostatic products worthy of two great electrostatic ear speakers. Now next up, we have a blind What's in the Box courtesy of our friends at Audio 46. I can't wait for that. And the long-awaited review of my Dan Clark Expanse. I have an IEM episode ahead with some budget gear, and we'll be getting back into electrostatics again when I do my full review of the Stax SRX 9000. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into these amazing electrostatic energizers. So incredible. Consider subscribing to the Director's Garage so you don't miss any of this stuff. Give the episode a thumbs up or do the other thing if you think I suck eggs. Can't say I blame you either way. Season 2, Episode 1 is in the books, and I hope you like the new digs, folks. I'm doing this all for you guys, and I will see you before you know it.